Well, hello everyone. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are and what part of the world. But thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time today. We have a very special presentation that we will see exactly what happens. We're going to be discussing life after Eaton Arrowsmith. We have some amazing teachers and former students and parents of Eaton Arrowsmith School who have kindly devoted some of their time to share with us their opinions, what brought them to Arrowsmith, what the process was like going through the school, and especially what life after Eaton Arrowsmith is all about. So I will turn it over to our CEO, Sarah Cohen. She's going to be our moderator this evening, and she will get the ball rolling. Enjoy.
Well, welcome everyone, and welcome everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time tonight. We're going to start by parents and student alumni and teachers as well to share our experiences tonight. So I think we'll start in the back row here. I'm going to start with Simon back here.
My name is Simon Hayes. I'm the principal of Eaton Arrowsmith and Magnuson School. We have 85 students here in a full-time program and 25 in a part-time, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Simon. Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm a mother of a former Arrowsmith student, and I'm a former Arrowsmith teacher as well. And since my involvement with the Arrowsmith, 17 years ago, I've stayed in touch with the program and still do project work for Arrowsmith School.
Thank you, Kathy. And Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I am a former Arrowsmith student in Toronto, and now I am an education assistant here at EA.
Thank you, Teresa. And Sue.
Hi, my name is Sue. My son Jake was the first Australian to actually graduate at EAS, and has gone in to success to success. And I'm really excited to talk about the program tonight.
Thank you, Sue. And Jill.
My name is Jill, and I am a former, I have one son who finished the program, and I have one son who is currently in the program. And my first son who completed the program is doing great and brought all his learning disabilities up to average, and we are thrilled about that. So.
Thank you, Jill. Sam.
My name's Sam. I graduated ES almost 27 years. In 2007. I'm currently going into my third year in university in Calgary.
Thank you for being here, Sam. Natalie?
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a senior math teacher and head academic here at Eaton Arrowsmith, and I've been here for 8 years. Lots of stories.
Wonderful. We look forward to it. Ingrid.
Hi, my name's Ingrid. I'm the senior English teacher, and I've been here for about 7 years.
I'm Bonnie. I'm the head cognitive teacher, and I've been here for 5 years. I'm delighted to be here tonight.
I'm Katie. I'm a former EA student.
And I'm Liz, and I'm Katie's mom. And I am not a former parent, I'm a former EA parent. I'm still a parent.
And I'm Sue. I'm the parent of a former EA student. Very happy with the program, very happy to talk to you all tonight.
Thank you. And we've got one alumni off camera here, Cole, who will be chiming in as well. And we have another alumni over the phone calling in. We've got Antoinette over the phone as well. So we are going to start by asking some questions. I'm going to ask some questions to the group, and we don't need to go around. It can really be much more of an informal thing, and you can build off what someone else says. And we may also be getting some questions fed to us also from those who are watching at home. So I wanted to start by asking, I'm sure, a question that a lot of people get asked, but why did you first explore Eaton Arrowsmith, either for yourself or your child?
I can kick that one out.
Okay.
We had known from a very early age that my daughter Teresa was very bright, and yet she still wasn't able to move along in school using the usual kind of help that you get either with tutoring. I became an Orton Gillingham tutor to help her with her studies. We tried a special school, 2 special schools that worked with kids with learning disabilities. And while she was always progressing, she was always forgetting as well. So it would be one step forward and sort of a half step back. And we read an article in Saturday Night Magazine, which was around at the time, talking about Barbara Arrowsmith and her school in Toronto for kids with learning disabilities. So Teresa and I flew out. We did the testing with the school, and Teresa at that young age.
We jumped in for similar reasons. Katie was doing really well in school, but we could see that there were things that were hard. And when I started to explore different things that would help her that were maybe non-academic, she was incredibly successful with vision therapy or the things like that. And I thought, well, there must be some other type of program. And then I read about Barbara's program, and so I naively started to explore other programs in our community, and I would say, so do you do a compensatory approach, or do you actually do a neuroplastic approach? And I got these strange stares, and then this sort of, well, but you don't understand, and a lot of that, and I thought, well, clearly this is a unique opportunity. This isn't something that has become folded into other kinds of education, and so we came here.
For us, it was similar reasons as well. We noticed that Cole, had some areas he was really excelling in, and some areas that he really needed some extra support. And in the public schools, we weren't getting that support, so we would have these meetings with the staff and the administration, but at the time, they just weren't financed well enough to kind of support him to even accommodate his learning disabilities. So then I started looking for other alternatives, and when I found out that Arrowsmith would look at, instead of accommodation, remediating, we were pretty excited, and especially at the age that Cole was, because he hadn't gone through.
I was about 16, and I guess you kind of realize relatively early on that your child isn't going to be a nuclear physicist. But that was okay, because I figured he would find his own way when he was in primary school. But unfortunately, by the time he got to high school, the gap between what he was capable of and what was being demanded of him, the exponential gap was so huge. And no matter what this child did, no matter how much work he committed to, and we tried everything. I think if they'd said stand in a bucket of manure for 2 hours a day and that will help him, we would have tried that as well. But nothing worked. And at 16, he came to me one day and said, you have to find a solution. I can't do this anymore. And the next day I walked out and saw a huge display of the book, The Brain That Changes Itself. And I'd seen it before and ignored it, and I figured this was the universe telling me to read it. So I got to the second chapter, read about Barbara Arrowsmith, and as I read I thought, oh my gosh, that's my child. And I called Toronto and they were full. They said call Vancouver. I spoke to Sandra for 2 hours that very same day, and the next day we committed to come and make the move from Australia to Vancouver to attend for Jake.
Thank you. What did you think Eaton Arrowsmith would be like before you started? And this can be one that students might want to answer too.
Well, I suppose we really didn't know what it was going to be like. We were kind of in a state where we were just wondering, like what will this school be like? And we were pleasantly surprised. It was a very good decision.
I had no idea at all. I was only in grade 5, so I still only really cared about going outside and having fun. Like, I didn't really even know what school was at that point. It was tough, and coming here it was all different, but I just had no idea what to expect at the time.
I guess a question for the parents, but some of the students would have taken part in this too. What solidified your choice to attend? Some of you sort of answered this already, but what was that for you that you just knew that this was the right thing to do?
We had the chance to sit down with Howard Eaton. My son was 7 when we determined that there was a problem and something we had to change. And I remember coming in and sitting with I think Sandra was there too, and Howard. And Howard said to us, he after discussing Johnny's learning profile and everything, he said, it was spring break, I remember, and he said, why would you wait to not move this child now? He's clearly in distress, and it would have been having a terrible year at school. He had real written output issues and was just very shut down in the classroom. And so I'll never forget that when Howard said that to me. He said, why wouldn't you move them now? And we did.
Thinking of what you were expecting when you came in and everything that, came before coming to Eaton Arrowsmith, what did you think as you were in the community, as you started, your child started in the community, as you've been here a while? What was different to you about this school?
I mean, I would just start in by talking about the other families who are here. Well, I mean, there are a lot of things, and then I would also talk about the incredible staff and the teaching. But just thinking about the other families, it was a place that you could come in and there's an incredible empathy. And people really understood and really enjoyed your children, whether it was other parents, whether it was the staff, faculty. Just that ability to not have to try to push, to try to be something that you're not. And that was huge, really important. And you get it from both the parents, you get it from the faculty. To be in a parent group where everyone's kind of gone off and tried everything, right? And you can kind of put your heads together and say, oh, you did that too? How did that go for you? Which is incredible.
Yeah, there's great resources from the other parents and families, and it's such a strong community, and it really is a wonderful thing to have along the way because it's not easy.
And to have also, I found the lack of surprise by the teachers in the community that a child might answer this way or that way. They would completely understand why that would be the case and why that anxiety might be there, or why that question might arise, because they knew what the particular brain area was weak in and what needed to be strengthened. And so that whole acceptance, understanding, and empathy was very strong and powerful.
For me, it was the partnership approach. I felt so joined with my son's teachers, but not just the teachers that he had. He had two obviously cognitive teachers plus the English and math teachers, but the whole community of teaching staff around him treated him as an individual and took great care of him. And I used to find it amazing to me to pick him up every day and have a conversation with his teachers that were, along the lines of, he's coasting, we know he's hitting a plateau, he's starting to take it easy, we're going to shake things up a little, be prepared. And or alternatively, he's being too hard on himself, we're going to back off and give him some breathing space. And that approach was done in conjunction with me every day. I mean, I could have, and often did, speak to his teachers every single day about his progress and about his program and about changing it up so that he could really, really maximize his potential. But it wasn't just his actual teachers. It's Mr. Bleasdale behind the camera helped him understand his creativity. Sarah one day in the hall said to me, he's not himself. Sarah didn't teach him. But she said, I've watched him, he's not himself, what can we do? And we put a plan together. And that to me just spoke, absolute depth about the total commitment of the teaching staff here to work in absolute partnership to make sure your child was pushed, pulled, loved, supported, and taken care of in all aspects of his time here, not just his cognitive learning.
Thank you. I'm just going to keep an eye on the time. I want to make sure we really spend a lot of time talking about the transition. I'm just going to ask a couple other questions because this will lead us into the transition. But I'm curious to hear now, and really from the teachers as well, is when did you start to see changes in your child? I think when you haven't had your child in a program like this and you've been trying to help them in so many other ways and you see little things change but you're not sure, what did you start to notice here in your children that was different from the teachers? When do you start to see changes in students? And what are the things you start to notice? I'm curious of the teachers, what are some of the things you start to notice that shift when students first join us? When you start to see changes?
I think as they've been here for a little while, the confidence goes up dramatically, and then from like an academic standpoint, I can I can push more comfortably, and they'll accept challenges more willingly. So I think the confidence plays a huge part, because they are, like, it is a great community here, and then they feel comfortable, and then we can start.
They're hanging on to that baggage that they've gone through school with for so long, and you can slowly sort of see like the weight comes off their shoulders, and they do have that confidence, and they're experiencing success. They're standing a little taller, and they're proud, and they realize that hard work is what's getting them there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about am I smart or any of that. It's this put in the effort, put in the hours, you're going to get there, and they start to believe in themselves, and they develop that growth mindset that we really are advocating.
Yeah, I find that as an academic teacher, a lot of what I do at the beginning is to instill that confidence, and to the idea that hard work and determination, you have to work hard at something. It doesn't mean that you're not smart. It means that you're changing your brain when you work harder. So again, sometimes it's chipping away at years of walls being put up. And also, I know that a lot of our students come to us with preconceived notions of what a teacher is, and when some students open up, they haven't had really positive experiences with a teacher. So it's really to help them feel comfortable and have them more at ease. And then you can really start to push them towards doing what we know they can do with hard work and determination. And speaking from a math perspective, one of the magical moments often happens between 2- and 3-handed clocks. That's where it happens. I remember the first time I noticed it. I was working with a student. He was maybe 8 or 9 years old, and Gianna Holmes was his cognitive teacher. And all of a sudden, he started to connect the dots in math. Numbers became more than just entities you can count. They became concepts. And I was talking to Luciana. He said, what's going on in his program? Because he's really starting to think about numbers and not just working on his memorization. And she said, well, he's really at the cusp of between 2- and 3-handed clocks. So I just noticed that the whole time here, when a student makes that transition between 2- and 3-handed clocks, something, I know it's scientific, but I like to think it's magical. And then it just picks up. That point is like a threshold, but then it just picks up steam after that. So from a cognitive side, I've really seen that the clocks part is crucial in terms of really understanding math. You can make it so far on memorization. There are some different turning points in the curriculum, especially grade 7, 8, and 9, when it starts to work more with algebra, and you can't really go on memorization anymore. It's really conceptually based. Having the strengthening that area of the brain that reasons is crucial for higher learning in math.
And for those of you watching who don't know what we're talking about with clocks, that one of the Arrowsmith exercises involves a lot of clock reading and reasoning, and this is what Natalie's referring to here. So thank you. From the parents or from the students, what were some of the first changes you started to notice in your children as they went through this unusual program?
Well, my mom tells me the story and I kind of remember it. I was a very anxious child. I couldn't leave my mom ever, really, and it would be 2:30 and I would be worried that my mom's going to be late, even though it wasn't 3 o'clock yet. So I'd be in tears. And one day my mom was very late for dance class to come pick me up. Not very late, but was late. And to me, that was terrifying. 5 minutes felt like forever. And she walked into the office and I was totally fine. And I knew my mom was coming. I knew she was. So I think my mom felt really relieved, and she knew that my brain was changing. But
that was the first big sign to me that this program was huge. And if that's all she ever got out of it, I would have been satisfied with that. But you know, she's gone on to do so much more. But that change in anxiety was Huge.
I was able to walk to dance class by myself without my mom. I was able to go and do things without being nervous, which.
And that happened a few months into the program.
Wow.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk. Can I tell some stories, Katie?
Thank you, Katie.
So I'm trying to just pick out a couple, because there were so many different things that happened. And they mostly happened in the first semester we were here. So we started in January, and fairly quickly we started to notice things. So one of them was we were at the airport returning a car. And, I mean, airport parking lot, who can figure out where they're going, right? And Katie said, well, I need to run off to the bathroom. And I said, oh, God, okay. Why don't you wait for me? No, why don't you just wait, and then I'll return the car. And she said, I'm fine. And I said, all right. So Katie found it. She'd never been to this parking lot before. She found the bathroom, and then she came back and found me in the parking lot in like a multi-layered, large, all looks the same space, and no problem. But the other one that was really good was her twin. We went back to visit. We were here without them, and we went back to visit. And I said to you, you said, I want to stay home alone. And I said, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You have to know my telephone number. And so she just rattled it off without even flinching. And her twin said, what? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry to embarrass you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Katie.
I think the transition period is quite an interesting time. I remember a week before Jake finished, and we were due to go back home, and I said to Simon, which is probably not the time to have said it, but please tell me that this has worked. And Simon, in Simon's kind of very low key, just went, trust the process. Trust the process, trust the process. And Jake went through the process so quickly that in 2 years, and to me, to be frank, the changes were so minuscule at a time. I didn't really notice them, but they were just continuing to build. And when we got back home to Australia, I mean, he literally took off. And what staggered me was, as Simon very patiently explained to me, that the process continues to build as these kids leave school and as they step into their world. And I am still watching, and it's been 4 years now since Jake left. I'm still watching his ability to learn just continue to increase. So I'm really thankful that I followed the process and trusted Simon. But it's something that you can't explain. You just watch it, and it's just so powerful to see.
I think for parents coming into the school is an easier process than making the decision to leave. And what time to leave and when is this, and I think that's where, as a school working with parents, that isn't a straightforward conversation, and trusting that process takes as much courage leaving the school than it does coming into the school.
I think it's almost harder.
Yeah.
Legal structure.
Yeah, because you're going back into a world where you have to feel trusted, or you're unsure of how will my child be accepted, how will what they've done be accepted, and will it be reviewed as a positive situation, and that takes work from July of one year to the next year after that, September, October, when school starts again.
I often found with students that we were teaching that it was not just a matter of showing them through assessments that they were cognitively capable or even academically up to speed, that there was like a shift that had to happen internally. That near the end of one of my years, I had a student who was reading quite complex literature and Orson Scott Card and stuff that was definitely, at his grade level and beyond. And we did a buddy reading program near the end of the year, and he panicked. And he was so upset, and he said, well, you have to partner me with someone I can read better than. And I was like, there's a bit of a reframing, not only in the minds of the parents, but the students as well, that what was really true here, that if you work hard, you can achieve your goals, that maybe before you worked hard nonstop and you got nowhere, but that's just not the case anymore.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think Antoinette has a comment.
Okay, Antoinette on the phone here would like to share something.
Ask her the same question.
Antoinette, can you talk with us about what were some of the changes that you noticed in yourself going through the program and when you started to see some of those changes?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I would probably say that the first time that I really noticed a massive change was probably when my thoughts started feeling like a lot more like my thoughts were in order and a lot more, I guess, organized in my head. I found a lot more independence at Eaton Arrowsmith, and my ability to process thought and get to what I'm trying to say more succinctly was also definitely a thing.
Thank you, Antoinette. I think I'd like to transition to talking about transitions at this point. We're starting to get into that with some of the comments. How did you know your child was ready to transition out of Eaton Arrowsmith?
Simon told me.
I think the reality is that as a staff, the minute we go through a formal assessment, we're already planning your child's transition out. And as Sue was saying, like, it's a push and pull, and we're trying to dictate when that happens as smoothly as possible. Because we do annual assessments, we can see July of one year that, yes, this should be the next, we have 10 more calendar months, and we should be able to work towards leaving and that transitioning plan. For some families, that's not the case, to stay 3 or 4 years, and that's fine, and we can then adjust a program to match the most important cognitive areas based on their learning profile and where their choice of school would be. And that's just the back and forth conversation process that we can have that suits the child. Like, you take out any of the other expectations, and there's always family dynamics, but catering to the child is probably the most important piece, I would say.
And any of the students or the teachers want to jump? When as a teacher do you start to realize? I mean, what you wouldn't know necessarily, not being part of the faculty, is that we sit down, it's in November, is it? And we start to go through all of the students and start to look at who's going to be completing this year, who's really ready to move on. And that's a dialogue that happens as a group, really, of everyone who does work with the child. What are some of the things that you start to look for and notice? Or what tells you?
I start to notice, I mean, obviously when we see capacities building, we see the greater independence, being able to work on their own. One big thing I find when I can tell if the student's ready to transition is they can self-advocate. They know their needs, they know their strengths, they know what kind of supports they're going to need to be successful in the next level. So when they can start to speak up and say, ask questions and say, I'm not sure if I understood that, instead of just smiling and nodding and kind of going along, I can tell they're ready, because their next journey, they are going to have those challenges, so they're going to need to be able to speak up for that. And when I can see them doing that and seeking out that, that's how I can tell.
Yeah, self-advocacy is a big thing, and a lot of the learning to learn skills are there. They are becoming more organized, can sort out their binders, keep things together, know what kind of questions to ask, not just I don't understand, but can specifically say, I'm a little bit stuck here, I understand this part, and those skills help them a lot in their transition, and it helps us to see that they're ready.
I remember a few years ago, I ran into a mom of a former student, and it was around November, December of this particular girl's transition year. And her mom had just gone through the first round of parent-teacher conferences. And her daughter was struggling keeping up with the academic rigor and balancing that. But the mom was rather positive about it. She said, every teacher I went to speak to mentioned how they wanted a class of my daughters because she self-advocated. She was determined. If there was something she struggled with a particular concept in math or in science, she waited after and asked the teacher. She asked her mom for help with tutoring. So she was really advocating for herself, and those skills, they're really almost better indicators of success than academic achievement, and there's a lot of research to back that up. But yeah, it's that advocating for yourself and knowing your limits and knowing what you need to do to strengthen yourself further, kind of like the same thing with Jake. It keeps unfolding, and you strengthen your capacities, and they continue to strengthen as you apply them in a real world context.
But I think the beauty is that these children just aren't left to develop self-advocacy. I remember that being a really important part of, Jakey's exposure here, was he was taught to start to be confident to speak up for himself. And so it wasn't just that, you would see, oh gosh, they can ask questions for themselves, yes, they're ready. It's about a consistent process that starts from the day they walk in, which starts building their confidence. So they do have the courage to say, you know what, I don't get it. Or this is driving me nuts. Or if you make me do clocks one more time or tracing one more time, I'm just going to walk out the door. So, but that confidence, you're absolutely right. When they get to that, that's when you start seeing them actually start taking control of their life. But that process starts from the minute that they walk in here. That started the building the confidence. I remember Jakey running up to me one day going, Mama, guess what? I'm not dumb after all. And it just takes your breath away, because you all of a sudden, this child that thought he was just stupid and couldn't learn, and all of a sudden he's got confidence to ask and say, you know what, I don't understand what's going on, please help me. So that's the process. It's not, you don't just arrive there, it's an integral part of what happens here.
And I would just add to that one thing I noticed about my son was that he ended up taking a lot of responsibility. The way the Arrowsmith program is designed, he ended up taking a lot of responsibility for his own learning, and which he didn't have before. So, and I see that as he moves along now, if he doesn't understand something, what you were saying, he'd advocate for himself, but not just because he doesn't understand, but because he's taking responsibility for learning the content that he needs to learn, and he learned that here through the different programs that gave him that growth mindset to learn.
Can I ask? Sam did 4 years, but wanted to leave after his 3rd year, and I think made the choice to come back for good reason and balance skiing. And are you willing to talk about what that 4th year felt? Because I saw a shift in you at that point.
I guess at the end of the 3rd year, I had my meeting with Ms. Usel, and it was, well, you can leave, but you're not done. You could leave, but you're not where you could be if you stayed another year. And I guess at the end of that 3rd year, that was really tough for me, because I would be going into grade 8 if I left. So it was a time where I was ensuring, I had a lot of friends that were out of school, and it was tough. It was tough to come from Walsnack to UBC every day. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, I've been here for 3 years. One more year won't kill me. I don't want to leave after 3 years knowing that I didn't finish it, and all I had was 1 more year left, and I'm going to be struggling the rest of my life, instead of struggle 1 more year through it and then be done with it.
I can kind of speak to the same thing. I unfortunately couldn't complete my program in Toronto, so I had a year left. So I only did a year and a half. And I struggled. High school was great. I was able to do high school, but when I got to university, I had that block. And I could see that I was struggling, and I had a really good family. I had a great family that was supporting me to go back as an adult. So I went back and completed 1 more year as an adult, and I needed that. And I had wished I was able to complete it when I was younger, but I think you have to complete the program in order to have the full success.
I think one of the ways we knew too was that we were outside doing a little bit more academic support in preparation of leaving at some point. And when I started hearing from Katie's tutors, no, she has no problem, this is just content she's learning. And this isn't, so she was doing OG work and doing some other things. And it was, no, she just needs to sit down and learn all this because she hasn't been in a school environment. Because prior to coming here, she was at a Waldorf school and there wasn't a lot of structured learning. And they said, it's not an issue for her to take this in. And then I knew that that was gonna be fine.
And Katie, did you have a sense for yourself, like, ready or not? Were you?
Nope. No idea. No. I was like really messed up because I was like really upset. I didn't want to leave because I didn't know if I was ready. So, you know, I'm good now.
Well, then I think that brings up an interesting question of what were some of your worries with your child leaving, and were they warranted? Were they not? You know, what did that look like for you?
I was very worried because he missed 4 years of school, right? Like, and it was a very fraught year that last year, where he was going to go or when he was going to do it. We had decided to send him. We had quite thought that we would send him to a school in Vancouver here that after Arrowsmith that is focused on learning disabilities, and it sort of became that last few months before he was graduating from Eaton Arrowsmith that he came to us and he said, why would you send me to this school, this next school where I've just spent the last 4 years working on all these things? He said, I am ready. And we were just kind of like, what? It seems very short-sighted of us now, I see that, but at the time, we were just so scared. And in fact, when he made the decision of the school that he wanted to attend, he's there now, he's very happy, and we did not, I can say we did not do any tutoring or anything to get him ready for that. And the only thing he fell behind in was math, and because he had missed the concepts, geometry to be specific, but with some extra help at the school, he's completely at grade level and everything, and he works so hard. That blows my mind because I don't see it at home. But teachers always tell me how hard he works, and I'm like, really? Like, I just don't see it, but great. And also, the thing that was such a pleasure to see is that he just wanted to learn. He was so interested in learning at this point, and that was, I didn't even think about that as an awesome benefit, but of course he's just so into learning now, and it's great.
I've heard that feedback from a counselor at one of the largest high schools here in Vancouver, and they said that they always know when it's one of our students because of how hard they work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the grit that you need to have to make it through this program. These students are working on things that they find the most challenging in their lives, and they're doing it day in and day out. And they develop this like perseverance and just the ability to push themselves no matter how challenging it gets. And I think that's a life skill that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their lives.
It always surprises me when we do like an open house or professionals come through, and we used to do them during the school day, and if I was lucky enough to get to help with a tour and I'd take them through maybe one of our younger classes, and it's 2:30 and they're 7 and 8-year-olds working silently. And, some of the psychologists would know, some of the students would be like, that child has ADD. Yep. And they've built this ability to work this hard, and they want to work hard, and forget that about children. They really want to work hard and be successful.
It's always nice it's always nice to run into former students. I recall running into this one girl once and asking her about her transition, and she said she has a lot of homework. I said, oh, And then she said, well, if I can handle 45 minutes of Word and 45 minutes of tracing every night, I can handle an hour of socials. And she said, at least it's interest. but again, she developed that grit and that determination, those character traits that really, it's almost a residual effect to building those cognitive capacities. It's these other character traits that are, you know, help contribute to lifelong learning.
I think one of the biggest questions I want to ask, and it's really open-ended, and this is for students, it's for parents, it would also be for teachers, but what advice would you have, twofold, what advice would you have for parents who are watching, maybe from some of the other sites or other places whose children are transitioning out? And then also, what advice would you have for parents who are considering Eaton Arrowsmith? And it can also, you know, Cole or Antoinette or Sam, I mean, Teresa, any advice you have for students leaving?
I guess coming in for new parents, it's definitely weird. You have a son or a daughter who's maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 in grade 7 or 8 or 9. It's a really scary thing to do. Like, for the student to leave an environment, yes, they may be falling behind, but comfortable, it's really tough at that age. And I guess that's the biggest challenge that our obstacle we have to overcome is making that switch. And it's, for me, it was really weird. Like, it wasn't the easiest, but I knew it was something for me and for my parents. It's something that had to be done. And transitioning out, I guess it's that, like, when we are here, like, there is subjects we don't take and we do miss, and you just have to work hard at. Like, I got a tutor after, once I left, like, they're like, I wasn't ashamed of it, like, I needed it. Like, I was behind in socials. I didn't take science from grade 4 to grade 8. Like, that's like a big gap I'm missing. And like, I wasn't ashamed of it. Like, it's just something you have to do, and it's something you have to do, not because the last 4 years like didn't help. It's, you've just missed so much. It's something you have to do to help yourself to get caught up.
That's a really, really well said, because what the reality is there will be gaps in knowledge, like how do you write a book report, or even things that you learned before you came to Arrowsmith that you weren't able to retain necessarily, and so you have to relearn just concepts, and aside from the actual knowledge that you're missing because you haven't been in science or socials for a number of years. So I think getting a tutor to help backfill that information that you weren't able to retain before is really helpful in that first year especially. Yeah. Did you find that?
Yeah, it allowed me to be successul and gave me tools that carried me all the way into grade 12, and my tutor unfortunately could not longer work with me just because of her life, like stuff that came up. So it allowed me to carry what she had given me into grade 12. So I didn't have a tutor in grade 12. I had my mom who supported me, but I was able to do everything on my own in grade 12. And then I also worked with Sarah when I was transitioning from Arrowsmith into Handsworth in 2004. It's been a while, but she helped me learn how to self-advocate, and that's a huge thing when you go into I went into a public school, but any type of school, you need to be able to self-advocate. And so going to take like a self-advocated course or getting a tutor that can help you with that, I think that's really important, because I was able to stand up for myself in classes and tell them what I needed, and was really successful in high school. And it helped me go to university, and I did have struggles, but I was able to ask for help.
Which is also why you went back and did Arrowsmith later, because you actually hadn't finished the program. So going back to finish at that point as an adult was a big decision, but a really good one.
It's, I think, important. It was a really important decision. And as an adult student, I think I knew why I was there. So I pushed myself, and I looked at all my other classmates, and I was incredible how hard they worked.
I would say for the folks coming into EAS that I was really worried a little bit about maybe the community and about maybe Cole missing out on some of those other subjects. But having gone through the program and coming out, the community was great, and it actually, he needed the remediation in order to do the work of the social studies. So he's transitioned now into a regular school, and even though he didn't have that information, he seems to have been able to pick it up very quickly. So that concern that I had at the beginning, it didn't end up panning out as anything that really mattered, and really focusing on the remediation part really was important at the time. So it made all the difference for where he is now, and he's at grade level now with everything. So the first report card was a little bit low, but he had a lot to sort of take in because it's a different type of learning. But then the second report card was very B's and A's, so it was good.
Yeah, I think I would probably just echo what everyone's saying, that really it turns out that the years that Katie was here, it didn't hold her back, it just made it easier. She's at grade level, she went back into school at grade level. We did a little bit of support work, but far less than I would have imagined. And in part that's also because of the fabulous academic teachers. But she also, she has her work ethic and she's really interested. And I think you get a pent-up curiosity when you're doing all these exercises day in, day out, then you find out there's all these other things to find out about. And it didn't hold you back one bit that you basically missed 1st through 6th grade.
Okay, yeah, that's exaggerating.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating.
Katie or Cole, do you have any advice? People?
Persistence.
Persistence?
Yeah,
In and out, just persistence is the best that can take you far, so persistence.
I would agree, yeah. It's a tough program, but it's definitely worth it to go through it, in my opinion.
Antoinette, is there anything you want to add either to advice for students or parents in transition?
Yeah, sorry guys, there's a big delay, so it's sometimes hard to keep up. But I would say transitioning out, I would probably echo everyone else what they were saying. Although it can be overwhelming to transition back, I had missed a whole year and a half of my schooling, and that was quite terrifying for both me and my family. But I think the main thing that Arrowsmith does is being able to access the capacity to absorb that learning a lot easier was probably one of the biggest things. It was the first time that school actually felt easy. I may have had to work a little bit harder in certain aspects of English and other subjects, but it was never something that was really fully holding me back. And transitioning into the school, I don't really know. I think that's definitely more a parent question, but I think that it can be overwhelming at first, but just like Sue says, you got to trust the process. Yeah.
Thank you, Antoinette. There's one question that I've been curious about. Many of you have more than one child, and there was a parent, Sandra and I were at an event, an alumni parent we were at an event with a year ago, and she had come to Vancouver to bring her child to the program and had another daughter, and said that she could almost kick herself thinking back that she didn't put her other child in the program for 1 year, that they'd done sort of part-time bits with their other child over the years, but now really understanding the program, she can see where her other child that never really had a learning disability still has some struggles, I mean, as we all do, and really regrets that she didn't do that 1 year. And now being a parent myself, it's interesting looking at my own children and the poor suffering children of, that have parents that teach Arrowsmith. It's like, we're like, they're strong and really good brokas. But I think about that question like, if they could get a boost, it's not really holding them back, but I do see where they're struggling with that. Have you ever, going through this with one child, do you ever look at your other child and then think, maybe Arrowsmith would help them?
I think they both needed it.
I actually would love to see this program accessible to everybody at an early age. So on that very note, even right from the get-go, having kids able to do this for 1 or 2 years, even if there's nothing glaring, as you're saying. Yeah, I totally see the benefit of that. Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any questions online that?
Not so far, no. You can.
Any final words? Final words. That sounded very ominous. Sorry. I said what you didn't say. That we have about 7 minutes left here. Anything that you want to share still that we haven't addressed? Anything that you want to convey to people?
I would just add that and I think it's been touched on, but I think the faculty is what makes this happen. They are so patient and inspiring and consistent and really wonderful and really accept and really understand. I think someone else had said this, you walk out and they understood that why your child did what they did or why the other kids in the room do what they do, and they get it from a cognitive standpoint, and it's kind of amazing, and the support and the care and just the warmth and how much everyone was like right behind you all the way through meant a huge amount and was so inspiring. And on those, oh my God, I can't do this one more days, just because you get tired, they're there and they understand and they kind of pick you up and get you going again, and so I think that's a huge piece of success of the program.
I think one of the things that I found was that through the program I actually got my child back. And I had started with a very cheeky, funny, warm, little bit naughty child that sank into just blackness. And there's pros and cons, I think, in terms of whether you catch this early enough to start your child very young. Versus when we came, which was when Jakey was 16. The pros, obviously, when they're little, or like Sam, you just kind of step into the program and you just transition and you just go. But you don't necessarily understand why you're doing it. The difference is when you're older, you have hit that black spot, and you know what the dark side feels like. And so to then, to watch my child, kind of reach 15, 16 and to be so despondent, so lacking in confidence, so lacking in self-belief, having nowhere to go. To see the program obviously change him cognitively, but what it gave us back as well was obviously a child that could learn and was excited by learning. And now I have business conversations with a 22-year-old that took me 30 years to learn in business, what he has taught himself in 18 months. So obviously I have a child that learns and can do really well, but I have my son back. I have someone that's confident, that knows how to work hard, is determined, is focused. And I thought I'd lost that child forever. So obviously getting a child back that can learn is hallelujah. But getting my son back was even a greater gift to me from Arrowsmith.
I recall a cute story that a junior parent told me once. She used to have trouble getting her son to go to bed. So if he was watching a show that he was really into, she used to be able to kind of dupe him out of watching the show. Like, oh, it's over. And then the one time he knew that the show had to end at 8 o'clock or at 8:30, and wait a second, it's only 8:17. I don't have to go to bed yet. And it's like, oh, it's give and take, but it's definitely it's really from a teacher standpoint. It's really heartwarming to see students become themselves and to become comfortable with all their quirks
and for it to be embraced by their peers. This is such a safe place. It's such a place where they really do just kind of become their best selves,
Two quick questions that have come from online. From the perspective of everyone here, would you say there's an ideal age to start at Eaton Arrowsmith?
I guess the younger, the better. Like it's when you're younger, the amount of school that you may miss when you're not at the school is limited. Like when you're coming here from grade, say 1 to 5, the amount that you would learn there, like it's easier to catch up on that than saying coming here between grade 8 and grade 11. Like the amount of stuff you learn outside of school is like it's a lot bigger. So I guess the younger the better. You can, it's really the best.
And then anyone who can share about transitioning to a job or transitioning to life?
I can kind of speak to that a little bit more. Transitioning from the adult center into cognitive, I went to training for Arrowsmith, and then I transitioned to a education assistant position here at EA. I found it really easy, and I understood. I was able to read all of the information that was in the binders that we had, or the manuals, and things became easy. I was able to do more at my restaurant. I was a hostess, and I was able to do more, so I was asking for more jobs and more responsibility. So it just kind of became easy, and I wasn't nervous about asking to do more. So I think that was, I had more opportunity with jobs. So, yeah.
I think there's also a piece too that we've talked about academic transition, but there's also the life transition even for the students. And I know for, Katie is so independent now. She takes the bus downtown, goes to school on her own, manages her homework, has done like a babysitting course. I mean, she's also will go off to the library, will take care of a lot of things on her own in a way that probably before she wasn't on the trajectory to do. And so there are even those just how to transition into life pieces that happen for the kids who are also still in school age.
Oh, we have a few more. Okay, just the bottom one here. Oh, this is a great question. Any suggestions on how to prepare the child before entering Arrowsmith? And that might come from parents, previous students, staff.
I think that the day that they spend at the school is really important. I know for us that made a big difference. My son was very young, he was 7 when he started, and he was vehemently opposed to coming. But he came for the day, and I remember having to sit there the whole day waiting, and he came out and he was very happy, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'll go, right? And so it was nothing that I could have said could have helped that along smoothly. So just coming and seeing it for themselves and understanding that it's a place that, okay, I can, they're gonna take care of me and I feel safe here and I have,
To bring back something that Katie said earlier, it's working with something that you struggle with. So I feel it's important to let the kid know that first little while is going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. But after you get past that first area, it becomes much better in that sense. Yes.
I guess that like it is tough. Like even as you saw everyone, I definitely wasn't the best kid for quite a while. I definitely fought with it, but it's just. It just takes time. Like it's the first day isn't going to be the easiest, nor is the first week or the first month. Like it's an ongoing process. Like you're here for a while. Like it's not like, oh, I'm here for a day and I'm perfect. Like I was here for 4 years from that first day to the last day. Like it was always a constant learning process and me overcoming battles. Like it's not just a one day and oh, it's perfect. Like it was ongoing.
Any advice from the teachers or parents?
I think it's a discussion around, and it's a big discussion, like letting go of judgment and what that means. I think often coming to a new school, facing new friends, people you don't know, if you traveled a long distance, and you may go to a dinner party prior to leaving your country or wherever you're coming from, and you have to explain to everybody where you're going, and you have no idea how to explain this. And even after 10 years of working here, I don't have a solid explanation how to explain what this school is. And it's just being honest and open with your child to say that you still love them and it is for them, and that you have their back through the whole thing. And nothing is ever perfect, ever. So, and there's a lot of relatable ways in life that you can have that discussion, and it's just letting go of that baggage.
And just to add to that, one of the things I've always been impressed with is how all the kids know why they're working on a certain exercise, why they're doing that, and what it's all about, and what and that helps them understand why they're doing that. And I've been very impressed with the kids' self-knowledge in that area. Yeah.
I would add too that I think it's also good for siblings, because it creates an empathy within the family, and the siblings start to see their other kids in a different way, and it can change how they frame and see things. So it does become a good family conversation.
And a lot of what we do in the first few weeks of a new year is to we want to teach our students about the brain and how our brain changes, how we learn, how our brain grows, and we talk about what Cole was saying, to embrace that struggle. That's how we know that with physical strength and physical conditioning, sometimes there's going to be pain. It's going to be hard for you to do something, but it's worth it. And to instill that growth mindset, that term has come up a lot in this conversation. There's a lot of science behind adopting a growth mindset, and seeing struggles and seeing frustration as a way of strengthening our brain and becoming stronger thinkers, stronger students, stronger people. And all of us, we talk about embracing that struggle and knowing from the get-go it's going to be hard, but it's okay, and it's okay to fail, and it's what we do with that failure. Do we use it to fuel complacency, or do we use it to fuel growth? And I see that in a lot of our students that I've come in contact with. They've developed that growth mindset. I mean, Johnny, by the end, I'd throw anything at him. He'd go, "Come at me!" I knew he was ready to transition, because he was never satisfied with anything that any challenge I gave him. And it's good. It's good. And
Natalie, can I just add to that when you
Sure.
say that? Is that I totally believe that Eaton Arrowsmith births resilience in our lives, and I think it's such an important skill to be able to carry on when we transition, because life's always going to throw crazy things at you. And I really think that my ability to keep going through when it's really, really tough, which is what Eaton Arrowsmith mostly demands of you, was always it was a huge lesson. And I also agree with the growth mindset. Is that Eaton Arrowsmith gives children like us that simple thought that we're capable, and that can be an incredibly powerful belief after going through everything that we do.
Thank you, Antoinette. Yeah, I really agree. One of the things I think that also parents can talk about is that hard doesn't mean bad. That there's a lot of joy and a lot of fun that happens in this school, and the friendships that form in relationships. I mean, they just last a lifetime. The families that stay connected and the students that stay connected, and even teacher to student. When I taught the high school, I got to be with my high school students the whole school day almost, and I mean, you can pity them, but also we formed really close relationships that they don't often get at that age. And there was so much fun that we had through that incredibly hard, challenging work. And I think it turned, for a lot of people, what it meant to work hard into a really, a pleasurable experience in a lot of ways. One of the other questions we had, and this would be a really good one for parents of students who've transitioned out, Is there a particular type of school or support that we should be seeking post Eaton Arrowsmith?
I think it's important that you're able to have a conversation with the school, and that they understand what it is that your child has been through and gone through and the experience that they've had, because I think that makes the transition a little bit easier. I know in our case, we put Jakey back into a new school, and they hadn't heard anything about Eaton Arrowsmith, but they were so excited to learn about it that they did so much research so that by the time he actually arrived back in Australia, they were prepared. They did an amazing job at helping him make transition, and to make allowances for him. And as you know, as the cognitive teachers have said, it wasn't the fact that he couldn't learn. He just had such a volume to have to catch up on, and to work with a school that understands that, and for us gave him space to be able to get that learning up to speed was really important.
That's great advice. Do you want to comment?
Go ahead.
I don't know about for you, but for me, I think it's, our kids are at the same school. And I think moving into a school that had a nice low teacher-to-child ratio was really good, where there was just an understanding, a lot of hands-on connectedness, and that was great. And then the other thing was just slowly as we left, starting to build in a little bit more external tutoring just to make sure that the transition would go smoothly. And I had anticipated, oh my gosh, you poor thing, I anticipated that you were going to be in tutoring like every day after school. And as it turns out, she hasn't needed it, it's been fine, and she's doing incredibly well in school. And part of it, I think, is, I mean, it's you, Katie, you've done an amazing job, and also being in an environment that's a little bit smaller and a little more flexible.
Cole went into a school that had the same sort of thing, a small teacher-student ratio. But now because of the growth mindset he has, he's sort of like, well, this school doesn't have as many options. So maybe in grade 11 or 12, I might be thinking about some other things. So I think we were really worried about the transition, and like I said before, the first semester was a little bit difficult, but I think every child is different, and I've heard some great stories from other students that have also been able to just transition back to their school that they came from. So just keeping your options open and looking at many different options, I think.
Last question, or should we go?
We covered.
That's okay. Okay.
Sarah, I want to thank you so much for moderating our wonderful crew tonight, and a huge thank you to all of you for being here. We really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for the passion and joy and dedication that you bring to our community. Even those of you that have left now, you're always with us. You cannot get rid of us. You try. And this has been a snapshot of our amazing community. This is it right here. This is what Eaton Arrowsmith is all about. So hopefully you've enjoyed watching, and we will definitely send a link out to all of you. If any questions are still to come, you can always send them to us at admissions@eatonarrowsmith.com. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.